we are at 6.5, solving absolute value equations. So I'm going to go ahead and read this because it explains it pretty well. The absolute value of a number A, written as that's the absolute value sign, okay? Right here is the distance between A and 0 on a number line. An absolute value equation such as the absolute value of x equals 4 is an equation that contains an absolute value expression. The equation, the absolute value of x equals 4, means that the distance between x and 0 is 4. The solutions of the equation are 4 and negative 4 because they are the only numbers whose distance from 0 is 4. So here is what they're saying. From 0 to negative 4, even though it's going down the number line, absolute value is distance, really. So equate those two. So distance is always positive. It doesn't matter if you're reversing back or what you're doing. When you talk about distance, it's always positive. So even though we are headed down the number line, it has nothing to do with the fact that we're at negative 4. The total distance from 0 to negative 4 is 4 units. And then from 0 to positive 4 is 4 units. So absolute value is always positive, okay? Never negative, so you have to remember that. So you want to take that down in your notes. It's always going to be positive. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to start by solving the sum. So it will have something like this. The absolute value of x equals 7. And we will write it like this. The absolute value of x equals 7. So it is distance. So that means that when you solve it, you just take it out of the absolute value. So one of the distance will be 7 and the other distance will be negative 7. Because you're looking at 0 just like you looked at negative 4 and 4. Those were the points there. But the actual distance from 0 is 7. So 7 and negative 7 are the answers to that. So real quick, let's do another one. The absolute value of x equals 15. So I'm going to go ahead and take and solve this. So one is going to be x equals positive 15 and the other one is x equals negative 15. It's as simple as that. So that's the distance on either side away from 0. Alright, so those are super simple ones. We're going to go ahead and do a few more. Let's just start expanding them a little bit more. Absolute value of x minus 3 equals 8. So we're going to write this as two equations. So when you solve them, you take it out of the absolute value. And you say x minus 3 equals 8. Or x minus 3 equals negative 8. Remember, you've got those distances on either side. And then you just solve it. And I'm going to show you after we solve, we're going to put them in and you're going to see their solutions. So add 3. So x equals 11. And add 3 to negative 8. And x equals negative 5. So let's test. 11 minus 3 inside the absolute value bar is the absolute value of 8 equals 8, and that is true. When you take it out, 8 equals 8. Then the other one is negative 5 is our answer here, and I'm plugging in minus 3 equals 8. So negative 5 minus 3 is negative 8 equals 8. Now what is the absolute value? It's distance. So it's never going to be a negative number, okay? So the absolute value of negative 8 is 8. So it is true. Both of these answers check. So whenever you see absolute value, think distance, because that's what it's talking about. So whatever number you have in absolute value, so if I had negative 15, in, or say negative 18. Negative 18 in the absolute value, and I ask you what's the absolute value of this, you would always take the positive of it. It's 18, okay? So you can't ever have a negative absolute value. And that's going to be important as we're solving absolute values. Alright, so here is another one. They just add to it. Now we've got a 3. Then we've got the absolute value of 2x minus 7 minus 5. So you've got the absolute value equals 4. So you can never split the equation in two until you've gotten to the absolute value equals a number. So I've got this minus 5 here, and I've got this 3 on the outside. So we have to go ahead and solve it until we get to the absolute value equals a number. So you'll see what I'm talking about in a minute. So the first thing is, we have a minus 5. We have to add 5, get rid of that. So we do it on both sides of the equation here. So then I've got 3. The absolute value of 2x minus 7 equals 4 plus 5 is 9. So again, we still don't have the absolute value by itself. We've got to get rid of that 3. So that means we're going to divide. So over here is adding and subtracting. Here we're dividing by 3. And this is going to cancel. Now I have the absolute value of 2x minus 7 equals 9 divided by 3 equals 3. So now it's right here at this. So the absolute value equals a positive number, so I can go ahead and take it out of the absolute value and I can solve it. 2x minus 7 equals 3, or 2x minus 7 equals negative 3. So add 7 and add 7. So 2x equals 10. Divide by 2, and x equals 5. I'm going to pull it up a bit so we can see more. Higher up, we can see more now. Add 7 here. So 2x equals negative 3 plus 7, or you can think 7 minus 3, which is 4. Divide by 2, and x equals 2. So the two answers are 2 and 5. And if you went back and you placed them in, they would work. So if you said 2 times 2 minus 7, took the absolute value, multiplied it by 3, subtracted 5, you would get 4. And the same thing would work with both numbers, okay? Alright, so let's go ahead and try another one. Because the more you see them and more you do them, the more comfortable you're going to get. So 4, the absolute value of t plus 9 minus 5 equals 19. So similar to what we did before. So we want to get it to where it just has the absolute value equals a number before we can solve it. So I'm going to add 5 here and add 5 here. So I've got 4, then the absolute value bar, t plus 9, another absolute value, equals 19 plus 5 is what, 24? So we still don't have the absolute value by itself, so we have to get rid of this 4. So I'm going to divide 4 into 24. So now I have the absolute value of t plus 9 equals 6, correct? So now I can see, let's not confuse that as absolute value so it doesn't look like 91. So it's t plus 9. Alright, so this absolute value is equal to a positive number, so that means I can take it and find two solutions. So the first one is t plus 9 equals 6, excuse me, or t plus 9 equals negative 6. Subtract 9, and t equals 6 minus 9, which is negative 3, so that's one of the solutions. Subtract 9 from negative 6, and t equals negative 15, that is the other solution. Okay, so I'll let you look at that. So So let's go ahead and I'm going to show you one that has no solution because they come up every once in a while. So remember, the absolute value is distance. And if you understand that distance, that's what I keep trying to say, distance can't ever be negative. So I'm going to show you one that would be no solution because it can't work. So the absolute value of, 3x plus 5 plus 6 equals -2. Okay, we don't decide anything just yet. We get it to where the absolute value equals a number and then we make the decision. The absolute value of 3x plus 5 equals -2 plus -6 is -8. So you can see that for the first time here we have the absolute value, so think of that as distance. Okay, so put that in your brain. You're talking about the distance is equal to a negative number. That is impossible, so no solution. Distance is not negative, it's always positive. So as soon as you solve it and you see that the absolute value is set equal to a negative, you put no solution. Don't try to work it out. You'll work it out and get some numbers, but it won't be right. So it's no solution, that's all. There's nothing else you can do to it. So let's try one more. -3, the absolute value of n plus 2, the absolute value of -7 equals -10. So remember, we don't decide now just because it has a negative. We have to solve it and then we make the decision if it has no solution or if it has those two solutions. Okay, the only time it would have one solution is if it was equal to 0, because it can be equal to 0, just not a negative number. So let's add 7. Okay, so -3, the absolute value of n plus 2 equals what? -10 plus 7, is that not -3? Okay, but here we have a -3, so let's divide to get rid of that. So n plus 2, absolute value, equals -3 divided by -3 is a +1. So see, when we solve it, it's fine. So this will have two solutions. So we split them up and we say n plus 2 equals 1, or n plus 2 equals -1. So -2, and n equals 1 minus 2, which is -1, and -2 here. So n equals -1 minus 2 is -3. And those are your two solutions, -1 and -3. And if you plug them back in, they would work out quite nicely. Alright guys, you're just practicing these absolute values, and the more you do them, the easier they're going to get. Okay guys.